Apologies for that. This is live.
I should have said something.
So if you haven't joined the Crowd Control HQ webinar before, welcome. I'm Dan Aston. I'm Marketing Manager here at Crowd Control HQ, and I'm delighted to be joined by another Dan Marable, who's at 448 Studio. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
So if you're joining us today, nice and easy. You don't need to think about who you're sending your questions to. Just put Dan. It's going to reach us, so no need to worry about that. So yeah, got a great session lined up for you today. But before we dive into the main content of today's session, if you're new to Crowd Control HQ, I'm just going to walk you through a few slides just to give you a little bit more of an idea of what we do and who we work with. So Crowd Control HQ is a social media management platform, and there's 4 key areas really which can help organizations to manage their social media efforts and activities. So the first is around engaging. So if one of your priorities to reach and engage your online audiences, Crowd Control HQ is designed to help you to do that with working collaboratively with your remote teams, scheduling content, all those kind of things in a very visual way. The second is around managing. So if you get a lot of activity on your social media accounts, or you have a lot of complexity, different accounts, different team members working on social media on behalf of the brand, you can pull all of that into one place. So you've got one central place where you can manage all of the messages inbound and outbound in a nice, effective way. The third is around analytics. So if you want to dive into the details of what's working, what's not working, where are the new opportunities when it comes to social media, you can view all of that in one central place. And the last is what we call Succeed. So you're not on your own with all of this. We're here to help you and support you and provide best practice advice on how to manage all your social assets and content. We work with many different organizations all through the UK. You know, many from the education sector, which we're going to be talking about today, but also from other public sector and private sector organizations. So if you need to pick our brains about anything, just let us know. There's just 2 things I want to mention before I hand over to Dan for the main content of today's session. We are offering an exclusive 3 months free access to the Crowd Control HQ platform. We know it is a very interesting time for a lot of organizations. You might be receiving many more messages than you're typically used to, or you might be having to rope in people from other teams and departments to help out on social media. So we're offering 3 months free access to the full platform, so you get all the features. There's no restrictions, there's no limits, and there's no cost. And this is not something that we often do. You won't find it on the website or on our social media channels. So if this is something you're kind of interested in learning more about, just send me a message today or after the session, and yeah, we'll pick it up with you from there. And the last thing I want to mention, Inspired Social. This is our annual conference. This year we can't do it as a face-to-face event, which we like to do, so it's all online. It's on the 1st of July. Please, check out the link, sign up. It's free to attend. We've got a whole host of different speakers, some from brands and some from sort of thought leaders and experts and things like that. So yeah, check it out, come along, sign up. We'd love to have you there. So that's it. So this is the point where I'm going to pass over to you, Dan. I just want to make sure you've got the controls here, and just to control the slides, just because it makes it life a little bit easier. So bear with us 1 second. Okay, Dan, you should have the.
Do I have access? Good. Oh no, it looks like I do. Yeah.
That's you. Yeah, cool.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dan. So I run a company called 448 Studio. I used to work for the University of Glasgow up until the end of 2018, and then took the difficult decision to leave a wonderful team there and branch out on my own. It's been great over the past year and a half. Essentially, what I do is I work with higher education institutions and academics and researchers and marketing teams and the likes to upskill their knowledge on social media and kind of look at what they're doing and what they can do going forward in terms of their social media strategy and things like that. So I'm really excited to be here this morning to talk to you guys about kind of what I've picked up over the past few months on social media, what types of things have been working, and just kind of give you guys lots of examples of types of things that people are doing and that you can, replicate when you're creating your own content on social. So today we'll start with some of the common themes over the past couple months. Then we're going to go into some of the channel breakdowns. I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on Twitter and Instagram for this one. I find Facebook has been done a lot, and it hasn't really been one of the main forms of main channels that people have been using on a regular basis to really communicate with their community and their audience. And then the content examples and ideas. So I'll mix in a whole bunch of different examples that I've seen, just so that you guys can have some, get some of the creative juices flowing in your mind for what you can do in the future. And then looking at some of the messages that you are going to be facing going forward in terms of higher education, looking at some of the things that you can prepare for over the next couple of months. So let's start with common themes. So Twitter released this at the end of March, looking at the growth of video actually across their platform and the increase of video. So obviously, the big ones here are the 73% and 85%. 73% for news, 85% increase for entertainment, which just goes to show that a lot of people are actually going to Twitter to find the most up-to-date information about what's going on with COVID or kind of how that affects them. They looked at kind of the brand roles. So it's important for brands to be these certain things. And the top one, is to provide reliable and accurate information across your platform, support society's vulnerable, looking at frontline staff and workers, and supporting employees. So I think, if you already are working within higher education, you're already doing a lot of these things, so well done. And it really is resonating. There are a few more as well. So helping support local community, acts of kindness, positive stories, things like that. So these are things that you're probably already doing, but it's just nice to know that, this kind of list of things is what is really resonating within the community. And I would suggest that this is not necessarily just for Twitter, but this is definitely transferable across some of the other channels in terms of the approaches that we should all be taking when we're creating our messages for social media. The tone as well. So the top 3 tones of voices that are really resonating with people right now on social media is one of support, being very informative, as well as being quite positive as well. There's quite a bit of negativity out there, and I think people are really starting to shy away from it and really starting to champion the positive side of things. And if you're a brand or if you work within higher education, it's being supportive, informative, and positive. You can't really go wrong with that. And I don't see, obviously this is kind of some of the stats from the past few months, but I think we should all really be striving to kind of take this approach anyway when we're doing social media in general. So let's look at Twitter. So essentially, Twitter was one of the kind of the main sources of information shared about kind of the ongoing crisis over the past couple months for universities. You would see some information from Facebook, but they on the pages they tended to be kind of more chunkier, beefier posts that would just put a lot of information on with the link to the site. But what I found from kind of monitoring some of the Twitter conversations was that it was an ongoing conversation with the community. And I do feel that the conversation has evolved over the past couple of months. So essentially it started with really just information. So just kind of making sure that the correct information was shared to the community. And then it started to evolve into kind of the supportive side. So showcasing kind of what a university or what an institution is doing to support the community. And now it's actually gone as far as kind of starting to have a bit of humor again and lightheartedness and things like that. Not really specifically about the crisis or about COVID, but more just kind of back to normal slightly. So let's have a look at some of the kind of updates that universities were putting. So generally, a lot of universities would just post a thread, and a lot of them came out on the 12th of March to say, this is what the response is, and they all looked quite similar. So that was University of Glasgow, this is University of Reading. So saying that people have been sent an email, go to the website. This is Cardiff University, so another kind of a thread type thing. So this is generally, and it's kind of within those bounds of the, the informative tone of voice, where it was just stating the facts. This is the most up to date, and as it progressed over the past couple months, these things were starting to be dated as well, to say, this is the most up to date, and so on and so forth. And this is not something you would necessarily see on really any other platform, possibly a little bit on Instagram in terms of Instagram stories, but Twitter was the main source. And I would see this kind of continuing for when, students start, returning back to university, if they are. And, a lot of people are actually turning to Twitter for the most up-to-date information. In terms of the audience for, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, do you think Twitter was used in that way just because of the immediacy of it? It's always up to date, rather than Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that, where it's like trying to curate the feed for you, whereas Twitter, it's always the latest, and you can quickly find like what is the latest.
Yeah, definitely, and it's just the way that the platform, it's specifically designed for news, really, and conversation. Whereas Facebook and a Facebook page, unless you're part of a Facebook group, where it's a back and forth, the Facebook page is very kind of a showcase. It's very much, this is our, we're telling you this, and you can comment underneath, and we might comment back. But Twitter is very much, we can have this conversation. And I think Twitter was really used not only for students and for external, but it was very much kind of the internal comms as well for staff and academics as well. A lot of staff were turning to Twitter for the most up-to-date information. Believe it or not, universities don't generally have a massively robust intranet all the time. So a lot of people, a lot of staff actually do turn to Twitter to actually find out what the university is saying about something.
Yeah.
Then it started to turn into the supportive side of things. So this is one from Glasgow Caledonian University. Talk about how 500 of their nursing students are joining the NHS coronavirus fight. This is a very popular post. University of Glasgow, again, they had a hashtag quarantine U of G, because usually they have a team U of G one. So this is very recent. This is just 15th of May, so a few days back. By International Day of Families, where they're encouraging their staff that are working from home to actually engage with them. So again, this comes back to kind of that audience again, that it's not always an external facing audience. You've got to think about the people that follow, that are part of your institution. Then to the humor side. So University of Reading is a great one to follow for the humorous side of things. So our plans, and then 2020. So this is a meme that was going around on Twitter over the past week or so, and I think this is great. The fact that it's not addressing necessarily really anything other than the fact that everyone is struggling a bit, but kind of being able to have a bit of a laugh about obviously the buildings that they have. So I kind of like the building on the right though. I don't know how many of you saw this one, but this is the next slide is a video. It was one of the people from the University of York, in the Department of English. This account only has 3,000 followers, but you can see from this video, and it probably has more views now since I last screen grabbed it, but it's probably about 500,000 views of this one video. So this type of thing that's showcasing the human side to institutions, because a lot of people will look at it as this big conglomerate of things, that it's nice to actually have a human element to it. So I'll play the video and let's hope that it works.
Hi, I'm Professor Helen Smith, Head of the Department of English and Related Literature at the University of York. A few people have asked me on Twitter today what's going to happen if we need to meet online, or more likely partly online, as we start the academic year. And I just want to reassure you really, I've been amazed, as always, by the ingenuity and generosity of my colleagues, our students, and our professional support services, especially our brilliant library, as we've adapted at speed to the current situation. We have achieved fantastic things together, and even at this difficult moment, our students are producing amazing work with all the support that we can give them. And we've managed this, of course, with incredible professionalism, never letting distraction or difficulties get in the way. What we have at York is an amazing community of staff and students working together. That's what's carried us through, and along with our intellectual reach and our brilliant student support, it's what makes it so special. So we can't wait to welcome you to York, even if that doesn't for a while take all of its usual forms. We'll be working really hard to make sure you can get the most of your university experience and engage in the ways you're best able to at a difficult time. Whatever life throws at us, we can't wait to meet you and to explore the brilliant and infinite possibilities of a world of literature at York.
So I love you.
I love you.
So it was a little bit choppy, but I'm sure you got the gist. I'm sure quite a few. I'm sure some of you have seen it. Dan, have you seen that video before?
This is the first time I've seen that one. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Well, look,
great.
Look it up on their Twitter account. It's hilarious. To see it without it being all choppy. But this is where the messaging now is, yes, what I was saying, it was a lot of it is for internal type of thing, but this is when where we all have that opportunity to actually showcase the human element of what we do to the wider community and to the wider world. So something like this is great, and it's really addressing the challenges that we're all having working from home. It might have been set up, but I don't really care. I think it's brilliant. It's a really great way of showcasing something. And there's no way that they thought that it was going to reach this many people with an account that only has 3,000 followers. I think it's done really well. I mean, even now, I've got my dog, beside me, and my wife's got my kid, trying to keep him quiet upstairs and things like that. And these are all the types of things that we're all just having to work with. So why not, showcase it and showcase how human we actually are. These are some of the comments underneath as well. So the young person is a dab-handed accessories here. I sense a bright future dressing others for the camera after quarantine. And so the York Department of English, they responded to almost every single one, and even kind of tied it into things that they're offering for people to study. I'm 76. Would like to apply for a place in your department. Okay, that could be more than welcome. We have superb mature students. These kinds of things, I think, are great, and it's something to remember as well. It's not all about just the content that you're putting out, but it's also the conversation that you're having with people who want to engage with you as you go along. This is something that's been around for quite some time. I'm sure you've probably seen the hashtag Bake Your Research. I thought this was actually really well done. This is the Declaration of Arbroath. I don't think I pronounced that right, but this is kind of the image of it side by side, and I think this person did a great job with it, even to the point where even some of the kind of the watermarks or things like that that are on it. But I think these types of trends, especially if you're kind of within the research and academic world, baking at the moment is huge. It's always been, like, food and baking and things like, it's always been huge on social media, but now even more so. Everybody's baking bread and taking photos of it and putting it up, and I think there's an opportunity here for kind of within the research and academic community to find new ways of reaching people with their research and what they're working on. And this is another one as well. So Chelsea was saying, thanks to this other researcher for the challenges. So she made a soil profile focaccia, which I think is really well done. But
like
again,
I don't know if it's not broccoli, but like the herbs at the top work really, really well.
Yeah, I think, what does it say there? Parsley.
Oh, parsley. Yeah.
Something in parsley. Yeah. I think just being aware that these trends are already out there, and finding ways to showcase what you do to a wider world it's a great opportunity. WVU, so West Virginia, they did a poll, so they understood that people were binge watching things on Netflix, and this is kind of specifically for their students. This is a student account where they had a vote for the best thing to binge. So using that poll option on Twitter to get a lot of engagement on it. So each one had over 300 votes on it, and then ended up being the final four, and then the winner was The Office. So things like that bring your community along and entertain them through this time is really important. Like we're past that kind of that critical time where it's everyone just wants information, and we will return to that time again. It'll be a bit of a cycle where when we're getting closer to students coming back to campus, if they are, where they're going to be looking for information, and it might even be over the next month or so that they're looking for that information. But we're at this point now where people have the information, they know that they're waiting, and they just want a channel that will provide them with some entertainment, but also a sense of community. Getty, I'm sure you guys have seen some of these ones where it's so we're kind of going into the heritage, library, and museum side of things. So if any of you run these types of accounts, you've got a massive resource of images and things like that you can share with people. So Getty was challenging people to recreate their favorite piece of artwork. So I'm sure you can see the top is the artwork, and then the bottom is people recreating it. So these types of things are great, kind of the challenges and things that people can do at home without needing much to do, but still being able to interact with you are really really important, and people really care a lot about them. These two are my favorite ones, which I think is hilarious. But giving people an opportunity to be creative and guiding them along. If you do follow accounts like the Royal Academy as well, where they've got people who've got drawing challenges and a whole host of things that continue to engage with your community through this time. Switching gears massively, but I just really like this one. So it's a Los Angeles Chargers, it's an NFL team, where we're making custom wallpapers for people's phones. And I think things like this, it a great idea for universities or for institutions as well, or companies, where they're just encouraging people to, I think did I get a screen grab? No, I didn't put a screen, but essentially they're encouraging people to give their name, their number, the color, and the type of phone that they have, so that they can actually create a custom wallpaper for them, and they just replied without really much. I don't think this would take a massive amount of effort, but I do feel that something like this is just providing value to your community, and caring for them. So let's go over to Instagram then. So Instagram, from what I could see, kind of your main Instagram feed wasn't massively used during kind of the initial COVID comms. Yes, there were a couple posts that went up, but essentially the channel has continued to be used kind of for what the purpose is of really great imagery, things like that. What I did see was that Instagram stories were utilized for the comms, because they would disappear after 24 hours, because people are more inclined on your Instagram feed to look at some of your older posts, and I think people were hesitant putting information on those posts because it quickly went out of date. So people are really using the Instagram story function, where they're putting some information up, and then it would just disappear, or they would save it into their highlights. So one of the things that I do want to share, though, from kind of the main feed, is this trend that was happening about a month ago for all the graduating high school students in America. Some of this might have been happening in the UK as well, but this is one of the ones that I saw, where the students actually set up their own Instagram account, encouraging people to send photos of themselves, their plans after high school, and kind of their favorite kind of quote and things like that. So students would post it up. So this is Gary Bolus III, looking great with his suit and tie.
That's a good
So
tie.
it's a really good tie, I know. And it highlighted the university that he was off to. So Temple University, with, you can see his favorite memory, fishing with my friends at Marsh Creek. Another one as well, Michaela, again, just she was going to the College of Arts and Sciences, but they really took the time to, they set up a Google form. These are all, high school students that are saying, we know that this is an important part of our lives that we're missing out on. We're not able to go to prom. We're not actually having graduation. And if you kind of put your high school hat back on, like that was a massive, massive time in your life. And not being able to take part of those things in person is a big deal. So they set up these Google forms where people put their email and their first name, and kind of showcasing where they're going so that they get added to a destination map, things like that. And I do feel that students going into university now are expecting this type of level of care and engagement. And if they don't think it's corny, they don't think you don't have to be hip and cool and things like that. Like, they actually know that we've set this up ourselves, and if a university actually is going to take the time to actually care about who I am, even if I'm not there physically, they're going to be receptive to that. And it was shared by one of New York Times writer Taylor Lorenz. So it really did start a bit of a trend over in America. Have you seen anything similar to that in the UK, Dan? I'm sure there probably is some stuff out there.
I haven't actually, no, not with the same setup as this, but I'm sure there must be some examples out there. Yeah, must be. Yeah.
So
by the way, if anyone who's joining us today, if you've seen an example, or you've helped deliver one of these for your own institution, just let us know in the questions box, and then we'll take a look at it at the end. It'd be really interesting to see. Or hear from you.
It's nice to kind of get into the mind of what students are thinking at that age group, because we very quickly forget. And I think it's nice to know that there's a level of caring and compassion for students at that age that have had to go through this challenging time, where it's a life-defining moment for them when they graduate and finish off, and they're off to university and saying goodbye to their high school friends, things like that. So yeah, it's a big time for them. Let's look at how universities have used Instagram stories. So this is from West Virginia University. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this within your Instagram stories if you follow universities on there, but essentially they ask people to screen grab this and circle their favorite house, their quarantine house. So these are all kind of people that are tied to the university, either notable alumni or things like that. So this is what would happen. They would circle it and tag the university, and then they would reshare it on their channel. So these are, I'll bring science experiments and a baby to cuddle, and then, okay, count us in. That's what West Virginia said. So the Instagram stories are really a great way to engage with your audience during this time in your community, almost quite specifically kind of with your student community, as well as some of your staff will be on Instagram stories as well, probably quite a few actually. So, going back to kind of the Glasgow theme here, GCU, there's a function on Instagram stories, and I'm sure you probably used it before, where you can ask a question and people can type something in. So share a positive message. So this is all from their community that they shared. So we'll get through this, check on each other and be kind. And then University of Glasgow did one for, and they do one every Wednesday actually, but what's your favorite study tune? So they actually got people to choose, their favorite song and they added it to a Spotify playlist leading up to exams, so people can actually listen to a playlist that they've created. This is one from World Record Egg. So straying slightly away from the higher education side of things. They said, guys, I'm getting a little lonely in isolation. I need your help. Join the gang to create a character. So they would choose their favorite egg. So this was the next one that they could screen grab. So they could choose their favorite egg and then decorate it and send it back. So these are some of the options that they had. And then they had they chose some of the best ones, and then people could vote using that little slider function. There's Dylan, Megan, and Colin. I like Colin. So this is just from their community that they screen grabbed it and added different things to it. And with the different functionalities of Instagram stories, they can add stickers to it. They could add the sunglasses or hair or draw on it, whatever they want. So stuff like this is great, and it doesn't take a lot of effort, and it's something that you can create without actually having to be on site or on campus. So we're kind of into this graduation side of things, and I know not a lot of the UK universities will have graduation upcoming, but there have been some grads already in America. So this is Colorado State University, where they'd send challenges out to people. So they say then and now, where people could add their photos onto it. So first year and senior, and then highlights as well. So they could add things. So getting a degree in, favorite class, favorite CSU memory, these types of things that they can type into it and then share it on their Instagram story. This is another video. I'll play a little bit of it, but essentially they asked their graduating class to share some words of support, and then they shared it on their stories.
The most important people to me during my time at CSU has to start with the people that influenced me before I came to CSU, and that was Caroline Sheffield at Trinity High School in North Carolina.
Thanks to my advisor, Thompson Tangler, and my graduate mentor, Greg, who both teach me, train me, and help me.
Dad, your devotion and strength was not lost on me. It didn't matter if you needed to drive 12 to 14 hours just to spend a weekend with me, just to help me move into my first apartment. You always loved me and supported me in education work, and I knew that.
That's a good frame to end it on. Poor Raven. Sorry, Raven. So I think giving your students an opportunity to share their stories and being able to share that as well on your Instagram stories works really well. They did obviously have the option of sharing this on Instagram TV because it's a longer version, obviously, but I think the fact that they uploaded it in story chunks to their Instagram stories, really highlights how important this function of Instagram is during this time, and to keep the students connected and for them to be able to share what they're feeling at this time. So looking at your channel as that you don't necessarily own it, but you facilitate it for your students during this time, I think is a really good approach to take, and giving them the option to actually share what they're feeling at the time as well. This is another one from Brigham Young University. John McBride shared this on his Twitter, and I'd like to give a shout out to him actually, because he actually shared all the things that they did for grad on Twitter, and I think it really shows how amazing this sector is in terms of sharing information. And I think it's the reason why higher education and social media is at the level as it is because people aren't possessive of what they do, and they're really willing to share their success or share how they did things. So thanks, John. But I'm going to show you some of the templates that they use for their Instagram stories, and it could be something that maybe you guys can replicate as well. So again, kind of the highlights, the then and now, that's very similar to what Colorado State did. But then there's also things for gift descriptions of yourself. So you could use, Instagram stickers to add into those, as well as some of the people who, who made an impact on your life over the past 3-4 years. This is something that they shared as well, is that people were using this template as, a starting off point, but then they continued on to kind of share some of their other memories as well. So I think it's really, this is a really successful campaign and something that you could really use during, the graduation period that's coming up, where no one's going to be able to have a graduation in person at the moment. So just making sure that people feel that you're there and you care about them. So if we kind of look at the 4 social media channels, and I know I very much highlighted the Instagram and Twitter side of things, based on the fact that those are, in my opinion, the 2 kind of channels that have been used the most. I'm just going to close this door. My son's eating his food. One sec. There we go. You can hear him in the background. So Instagram and Twitter were, in my opinion, the ones that were used the most, and for the appropriate reasons as well. But I think Facebook and LinkedIn still did play quite an important role. Facebook was great for kind of the video aspect of things, the events as well, and kind of sharing kind of large updates around COVID. There's also been quite a few Facebook Lives where it would stream from a platform like Zoom, where Vice Chancellor and would speak about different things and is able to be asked questions and have a discussion with people. So I think that was been quite effective on the Facebook side. The LinkedIn side of it, I think, is very important for your alumni community, and showcasing the feel good stories of maybe current students that have been working and helping on the front line for this crisis, as well as showcasing some of the alumni success stories kind of based around COVID. So that they still have been very effective channels, but in my mind, kind of the Instagram story side for the community and the Twitter side for your internal information, I think, has been very useful channels. So things that are coming up, so things that you should be thinking about at the moment, and trying to think about what your messaging should be and choosing the right channels for it. So obviously, exams. I think exams will be wrapping up fairly soon. If not, I think there might be almost about a week left of exams, depending on what your schedule is. But then you've got things like summer school coming up, and summer school is usually quite big for kind of the international students who would arrive in a different country to learn something new. So you're thinking about kind of your comms to those students, as well as returning or new students. Making sure that that which channels you'll be using for kind of primary information for those students. I know some universities have been developing things like even like newsletters where it would be an email sent out. I mean, I know social media is just one of the tools in your arsenal of comms to students, and email is still very powerful, and websites, having a student newsletter within a website, I think, is quite important as well. Looking at things like open days and offer holder days, how are we, I think a lot of universities have already been doing ones online. It seems like everyone is, but just thinking about how to make those as immersive as possible, and looking at new ways of teaching as well. So, if students aren't going to be on campus, or if it's a staggered approach, how will you make sure that students are learning at the same level as they were before? And then even just down to kind of the research communications as well, and funding, because a lot of funding is probably going to be drying up for some academics. So kind of looking at preemptively thinking of some messaging for that. I think that's it, actually. Yeah, that's all I have. I don't know if there's any questions. I do have a couple other slides to promote various things, but I'll do that right at the end.
Yeah, sure.
But if there are any questions, fire away.
So before I can see we have got one question, but if anyone else wants to submit the questions, now's the right time, and we've got a bit of time to kind of, you know, share our thoughts or see what others think to the question. So please just do submit it into the little question box. But Dan, just before we jump into the questions, yeah, super interesting. It's always really nice. So thanks so much for taking the time to kind of do that research and pull all of that content together. I think it's one of those things that we all like to spend a bit of time to look for nice examples, you know, ideas that can give us some inspiration that we can replicate, or, you know, take some tips and tricks from, especially the guy, was it John? I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
The guy where he just shared all the templates.
John McBride, yeah.
Together. Yeah, I mean, super helpful. And I would echo the fact that as a sector, just so nice to see like the willingness to kind of share and help each other out. We don't really see that in other sectors, especially sort of private brands and things like that. So just going to dive in. So just check a couple of questions here. Question from Mia. So thanks, Mia. Many students are upset about not being able to attend their graduation. Pretty understandable, I think. How should we tread carefully when sharing graduation related posts / encouraging them to share their favorite memories of the university?
Yeah, I think it is something that I think everyone's starting to realize now in terms of kind of the way things are. I mean, I'm in the mind that a lot of students have accepted that fact already, that, you know, they're not going to have an in-person graduation, and it's not really anything that the university can really do about it. It's a global challenge. So I think, yes, you know, address the fact, you know, some students will be upset, and I think ensuring that your tone when you are asking for this type of content is, you know, we understand, like you know, when I worked at the university, graduation was the happiest time, and it sucks when you're not able to have that. And it's not just the happiest time for the students and their parents, but it's also the happiest time for all the staff, because they see everyone smiling. And especially from the social media side of things, we would go out and we'd interact with them and make videos, and it's just a great feeling on campus. I think just addressing that right off the bat, that, you know, we're all, you know, quite, you know, sad that we're not able to do it, but let's, you know, turn this around and share some of our favorite memories that, you know, we're going to share on our channels. And I think students will really appreciate that you've actually taken the time to think of new ways to ensure that they're, you know, they're cared for, as opposed to just the alternative of just not doing anything. And then, you know, and it's the case. Yeah, so I think I definitely think you're absolutely right, Mia, in terms of treading carefully, but also just making sure that students are aware that, you know, as an institution, it is the happiest time, and we're all, you know, upset that we're not able to do it. And I think that's the approach to take.
Yeah, no, that sounds like good advice. So there, we've got another one. What, in your opinion, are the best university accounts to follow for inspiration on social media? So yeah, you've done all this research, Dan. So who would you say?
Well, a couple of the ones that I shared there, I think, I mean, University of Glasgow, but I'm quite biased because I used to work for them. But I do think, you know, Emma and the team over there do a brilliant job, and really understand who their audience is. You know, University of Reading is always a fun one to follow as well. They've got a really strong tone of voice. And then if you jump over, you know, across the pond, you know, things like CSU, Colorado State University, or West Virginia, or Michigan is a really good one as well to follow. Those are the ones that the reason why they've been so successful is because they really understand which audience follows their specific channels, and they tailor the content to those channels as well. Not to say that, you know, repurposing content is a bad thing, and I think we should all be repurposing content across channels, but it's just ensuring that it's, you know, the tone of voice and the way that it's communicated on each channel is unique to that channel. So I think those universities do really well. I'll show you, I guess, on the next slide in terms of the conference that I'm organizing called All Day All Night, where I've asked, you know, some of the managers for some of the best universities, university channels to take place and or to speak. There's, you know, a whole host of them, and I would suggest if you go to that site, even just looking at some of the speakers that are on there and following the channels and following what they're putting up, I think it's a good way to go.
That makes sense. I mean, if they're willing to take part in the event and be a speaker, then they're already one of those individuals that's willing to share and like give advice and share what they've learned like with others. So
yeah.
Makes sense. So got another one here from Sarah. Not a question, but we've been doing student takeovers on our IG stories.
Great.
It's been a great success. Cool.
Good.
Students really love hearing from their peers about their current experience, lockdown, and how they're staying creative, and how it's okay to have bad days. We then save them to our highlights to students to revisit. Feel free to check them out at Plymouth College of Art. There you go.
Oh, great.
So a
I
little
was about
shout
to
out
ask,
there.
like, what is it? Yeah. Here, I'll type this out so I can have a look after. Plymouth, got it.
Yeah, but that sounds awesome. It's kind of linked to some of the examples you were sharing there, Dan, like with the IG stories, and obviously you can save them so people can have them as a resource.
Yeah, I think some good on you for doing that, because I think some institutions are quite hesitant on handing over the reins of their beloved Instagram channel to students. But you know, that whenever we did it at the University of Glasgow, we never had any problems, because we would know the student that we're giving it to. You know, the responsible, they're university students, they're almost adults. So and you know, and they're you know, presenting themselves in a professional way. So yeah, I'm all for a really good student takeover. I think the challenging part is kind of developing guidelines for them, or even just kind of the technical side of things of, you know, handing over your password and things like that. But yeah, no, I think it's anything that you can do that's student driven, I think is great. And a lot of students will, you know, kind of take over for their during their graduation as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. So in terms of questions, I think that's pretty much it. So if you've got any last minute questions, do send them in. On the screen here, you can see it's at Crowd Control HQ in all your favorite social channels, and it's 448 Studio UK. I guess that's on Twitter, Dan, the 448 Studio?
That's Twitter, yeah. I have the other channels, but my primary one is Twitter. And the conference at the end of June as well is a 24-hour conference for the education sector, and it starts in the UK and then follows the sun and goes to the US with US speakers and Australian speakers. So it's all around social media and higher education. So yeah, have a look at the site anyway, and even if it's just for kind of inspiration for the people that are speaking, or if you think it's relevant to for yourself, then for sure go ahead and sign up.
Awesome. No, it sounds good. It sounds really interesting, and I'm interested as well, as someone who's kind of running online virtual events, how you do it for 24 hours. That sounds super interesting.
I'm interested too. It's the first time. No, I think it'll be fun.
That's amazing. So folks, thanks so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed it, you know, do tag us on Twitter or Insta or LinkedIn, wherever you kind of spend most time online yourself. Love to see you, and obviously we'll get involved and give you a shout out as well. So thanks so much for joining us. Dan, thanks a lot. Thanks for spending the time to put all that content together. Really helpful.